This is TWiT.
I kind of read through this a couple times and just thought about it a lot. So ARM reveals a roadmap and essentially that they're targeting Intel performance. Josh wrote this up for PC Per. And he kind of sums it up. Quote, ARM has had a pretty fascinating history, but for most of its time on this earth, it has not been a very public-facing company, which in Josh's mastery of the subtle understatement is a polite way of saying ARM's hid their crap pretty freaking well until they were damn well ready to publicly face it. And that's just the way they operate. And if you don't like that, deal with it. You look at this slide that was under embargo until 6 a.m. Pacific today, and this is 2 generations of products from the company that are intended, quote, to compete in not only the cell phone market but also in the laptop market, and this is a big deal, especially.
I think it is.
We've heard a lot of noises lately that Apple's going to take their, A12, A13, A14, A17, A20, whatever number they decide to throw on it. But the idea that they're going to start kind of bringing the Mac platform to ARM-based processing, which I have a lot of mixed feelings about for any of a number of reasons. But what we do know is that, yes, those are Apple processors, and yes, Apple bought a company that's really good at accelerating ARM technology, and that's why their processors are so fast. And of course, they're Apple, so they have a metric ton of money to throw at the problem. But this also implies that ARM itself is working on significantly more powerful processors and probably consuming more power than we've traditionally thought of in ARM processor computing to make it more powerful. Not that, a 5-watt Intel processor is really sucking down that much juice, but I'm very curious to see where this ends up. And this has to be, this is, I can't read this as anything other than a direct shot across the bow of Intel.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And the interesting thing is, so we had learned about the Cortex A76 a little while ago, a month ago or so. But now, ARM is not just talking about that. They're talking about their 7 nanometer Deimos and Hercules parts, maybe going down to 5 nanometer, and they've got a whole roadmap of this stuff kind of laid out going against Intel in this space. And if you look at the first versions of the Snapdragon on Windows devices, the Windows on ARM, primarily the 2 complaints are the performance wasn't quite good enough and application compatibility. ARM can't really fix application compatibility necessarily, but they can give more reasons for Microsoft to want to fix that by releasing parts that are more performance, that offer more features, whether it be LTE connectivity, 5G connectivity, super extended battery life compared to Intel platforms that will kind of force, as user demand goes there, Microsoft will have to react. So, the ARM compute, they've been increasing. This is basically a blanket statement that they're not happy with the trajectory they're on and they're going to increase it. And this doesn't just actually go against Intel, but it also kind of goes against Apple, which ARM won't ever say because Apple's a partner. Apple uses an ARM architecture license. But if you look at all of ARM's partners in like the Android space, whether it be Samsung or Qualcomm or MediaTek, they've fallen behind Apple in the processor arena for mobile devices, because they have all been dependent on ARM's cores. Well, Apple was developing its own, and Qualcomm used to develop its own, but they kind of stopped doing that 3-4 generations ago. Everyone else was dependent on what ARM was doing. And that gap in single-threaded performance, continued to accelerate in Apple's favor. And I think they were getting a lot of, they saw a lot of problems with that from their partners. And so this will also address that, right? So, It will give them the capability to keep up with Apple in that space, even though they've been falling behind. But yeah, I'm really excited what this is going to do for those Qualcomm Snapdragon powered Windows machines or ARM powered Windows machines, whatever you want to call them, in maybe late next year, mid to late next year, right? So it could be that quick if everything on these roadmaps lives up to what they say.
We wait with bated breath. I don't know what else to say on that one. And I know I abuse that line a lot, but this is, if these can actually run Windows, I mean, I keep looking at that one chart where they're looking at Cortex A76 laptop class performance. Now this is, spec in 2K6, so this is not a real world benchmark, but they're stacking that up against a Core i5 7300U and a Core i5 7300U in turbo mode, and they're basically saying they're faster than the baseline of that 7300U, and they're faster, or they're a little slower than the turbo mode. But consuming 5 watts instead of 15 watts that the turbo mode consumes. And that Core i5 7300U, that's a 15 watt part that came out in Q1 2017. That's, man, if they can get Windows running on that, it's going to put a hurt. It's going to put a massive hurt if they get Windows running on that, and they're doing that level of power consumption, that level of performance. It's going to really suck to be Intel in the mobile market in a year or two.
They're going to have to react. That's what we want.
Yes, because that's actually usually really good for consumers.